Today on
Doomed!
Corporations would like for you to have a right-wing Supreme Court forever. On today's episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, I will be talking with Andrew Perez of the Daily Poster about how corporate lobbyists are fighting to protect the GOP's Supreme Court majority. It's great for business, but bad, obviously, for you. Folks, let's jump right in now to the show and let me pull up my guest on the screen, first of all, and myself as well. I just realized I'm not up on the screen yet either. Here we go. Joining me now, I've already introduced him, but let me introduce him again. Andrew Perez, senior editor at the Daily Poster. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I had a little bit of a shorter intro prepared than usual, and it didn't match up with like the opening song, like the length of it. So I was like, at the last minute, I was like, oh, let me just announce who my guest is. But then I, of course, have to announce you again when I actually pull you up on the screen. But you get the intro twice because you're that nice, Andrew.
Thanks.
So I read your piece this morning, and I wanted to talk to you right away about this, and thankfully you were available. Because, I mean, it should be obvious that, corporations like right-wing politics. So they would also like a right-wing GOP, the GOP Supreme Court, Donald Trump Supreme Court. However, I think specifically what you went into in your piece explicitly, which, corporate lobbyist groups are putting their money where their mouth is and actually advocating for, or should I say against any action to undermine the right-wing Supreme Court we currently have. On top of that, under what's going on right now in the Supreme Court, where it seems pretty obvious, hopefully I'm wrong, but it does seem like we are about to possibly see the end of Roe v. Wade, based on how specifically Trump's Supreme Court picks are talking about all this. Mm-hmm. And there goes, the women's choice, women's ability to basically, have rights over their own bodies in this country, and they'll make their arguments about states' rights, but we all know where this is headed. Mm-hmm. I'm blabbing on now, but I sort of wanted to put this in the perspective of everything going on. So Andrew, why don't we jump right in now? And talk about basically. Actually, let's actually start with that. What do you think about what's going on in the Supreme Court right now? And then we could, after we talk about all that doom, we could talk about the gloom, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the Supreme Court has, it's been, a kind of corporate, a friend to corporate interests, probably for a long, long time. But there is definitely, you're seeing a severe lurch to the right on social issues, which, was the point, right? Like that was the point of the GOP, packing this court the way they have. This was the whole point of, blocking Merrick Garland's appointment under Obama. It was the point of installing three very conservative justices and Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And Barrett was, appointed. Literally, she was confirmed days before the election, like 8 days before the 2020 election. This was the point, right? Was they thought they now have the votes to end Roe v. Wade, and to end, basically, Democrats have actually never, since 1973, since this decision, they've never actually like codified it. There is no like federal protection for access to abortion other than that. So it's always been a little tenuous, and this is the way you end it, right? Like you install, a conservative supermajority that does the work for you. There's no reason to, that was it.
Right. And we are in a position now where basically, even beyond how it's looking, and it is. I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to look past it if it's as if it's not of the utmost importance. It is going to probably be the most detrimental decision in modern times that I can think of. I mean, I'm 35, so I'm sure there's been other decisions, but from what I can remember, as far as I've been paying working and covering politics for the past decade, this would be the most detrimental, I think. And but to include that and even look further down the line, it's looking like anything that we could possibly want. We meaning anyone who's even left of center. Medicare for all. Stronger labor rights. Continue down the line here. Is going to see have their day in court with this right wing SCOTUS. And you better believe that anything that we might be able to get passed, even in Congress and signed by a Democratic president, is going to face hardcore resistance and possibly be shut down in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely, the court, it sounds like, could also in its next term, limit the EPA's ability to regulate carbon emissions. Like, that is something that could easily happen very soon. I think everyone kind of has, I think the fact that the court has allowed the Affordable Care Act to stand, sort of maybe quieted some of the, people's thoughts on it a bit, and allowed it to kind of, I guess, at least perception-wise, preserve some semblance of like legitimacy, right? Like, it wasn't just some nakedly political actor, but I think that is going to come to a close very soon. That phase.
Right. I mean, Roberts has tried to even to at least keep the facade going, like the wizard with the Oz is in back of the the curtain. But yeah, I mean, he can't really do that for much longer with Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and oh my God, I'm having a mental block. Help me out here, Barrett. Thank you. So where we're headed here, I think, is basically there's one thing that can be done to stop where this could possibly go and looks like it's headed. And that is, I mean, obviously there are certain things that maybe Democrats in Congress, if they get their act together, could codify into law, and maybe we can do some work there. But in the long term, in terms of making sure we don't do this song and dance every election, where the future of very important Supreme Court decisions hang in the balance every 4 years, like they've been holding this carrot stick in front of us for every election, where basically, I mean, look at every time there, in 2016 and even the Obama years. I remember this was a whole thing where, RGB is getting old. She's getting up there. Justice Breyer's getting old. He's getting up there. Vote. You should vote for the Democrat no matter what, because otherwise, all these major Supreme Court decisions, they can be reversed in Trump's, Romney's, McCain's, Bush's Supreme Court, and that was always sort of like the carrot that they dangled in front of us. And then what happens when Trump gets in? Trump wins 2016, three picks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so there is legislation right now in the Senate with 48 co-sponsors to codify Roe v. Wade and to basically preempt any state like restrictive state abortion laws. But it doesn't have the support of Joe Manchin, who might as well be president. Bob Casey of Pennsylvania is considered pretty conservative on this very issue. there are obviously at least two Republican senators who have talked about, believing that, people deserve abortion rights. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. But, the thing is, even if you were able to get them on board in this kind of push, um, we still have the filibuster in place in the Senate, which prevents basically any social policy from advancing. By keeping that in place, they are allowing themselves to pass two bills a year, like spending bills, and
Right.
well, in defense authorizations, because there's no trouble there. But yeah, they could pass two big spending bills. It's why you see them putting everything together in the reconciliation bill. Horrible name, sorry. But that's why, right? Like, it's because every other thing you could try to pass, other than a budget reconciliation bill, that spending package, will require 60 votes. And Democrats could end the filibuster tomorrow with 50 plus one, with the extra one being Kamala Harris. But it's not happening. They're not doing it. There's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have stood against that for the entire Biden presidency. And yeah, as it stands, that's none of this is happening, right? It's all just happening to them and to the public, really to the public, as they just watch this car accident unfold repeatedly.
Right. I will say, two bills a year, baby, getting things done, just like the Democrats like it, right?
Yeah, that's that confidence pitch that you and I probably found so appealing and yeah, real last cycle, real in 2016. Yeah.
I love the getting things done line. It doesn't matter if the things that are getting done are any good. It's just that we're getting shit done,
Yeah, and if you're not, well, that's someone else's fault, right? That is the Republicans' fault, and yeah, what else can be done? And even talking about it is like then we're ascribing to the Green Lantern theory of politics, right? If we say like these people should be doing something, there's this whole pundit wonk class that exists to tell you tough shit. No, nothing happens, and it's it's actually wrong of you to hope for anything other than that.
Right. I gotta say, Andrew, you are queuing me up so perfectly that people would think that this was planned out, but this is just a natural flowing conversation. Which brings me to this. Basically, there is one real thing that can be done that will fix the Supreme Court for good. At least for, until the next disaster happens. But from what I understand, from what I've read, this is the magical pill that'll fix the Supreme Court, and that's just expand it. Expand the Supreme Court. The idea that 9 people who can be put on this in this position for their entire lives get to basically have the final say on basically anything that happens that actually does get through our terrible Congress. They could basically just say, all that work, bye, sorry. No, years of precedent, previous decisions, your way of life, the modern American way of life, gone, done. We don't like it. We don't want it. Doesn't matter who you voted for. These 9 unelected officials basically get to have final say. I mean, yes, there are ways to even overrule Supreme Court, but you got to get a lot of people on board. That'll never happen in today's politics. But so basically expand the Supreme Court. Now tell me, what do you think about expanding the Supreme Court, and what's stopping us from doing so?
I mean, I think with the situation you're at, it's probably the only kind of realistic at all path you have to improving the situation, right? Like those people are already there. They've secured the 6-3 majority, and they did it with people who are relatively young. Like they will the 3 Trump justices will be there for decades. And yeah, I mean, so court expansion's probably the only kind of thing you could really talk about that might solve that situation. But the thing is, not only is there probably not, a lot of will within the Senate Democratic caucus to make that happen, But, Biden created this commission to study court reform options. And, it's full of these like elite liberals but also like, they added a whole bunch of conservative members too. And um, the commission is basically saying that if you were to add seats, it could really damage the court's legitimacy. Like they're at least giving some merit to that argument, which, presumes that the court has legitimacy right now.
Right.
And, I mean, I guess that's hard for these people to fathom. The Senate is full of, at least in theory, full of these like so-called institutionalists, right? That's why they don't want to end the filibuster. It's why they listen to the parliamentarian, they're literally just an advisor. It's just an advisor who they could say, no, thank you. We're going to overrule you.
Another unelected position, by the way. We're being ruled literally by people that no one in the American public has voted for to make these decisions.
Yeah. And, I mean, no one really knows who the parliamentarian is. People might have some concept of who these Supreme Court justices are, but, probably not all that much, really. And, probably not all that much, really, because, up until the last few months, like polls have shown that the court is viewed with legitimacy, right? Like, but yeah, so, Democrats could attempt to reform the court, but, it would require a united caucus and a willingness to deal with, a bad headline for a moment, really, where they just deal with the news cycle, accusing them of playing politics with what is an innately political institution. So yeah, but and the thing we wrote about is that there are corporate lobbying groups who are making these like kind of same arguments to them, right? Like the U.S. Chamber is talking about how like Americans really value the rule of law, they really treasure it, and adding court seats might threaten that. And then you also have, other groups that like the Business Roundtable, which is, I mean, it's kind of hilarious. It is a lobbying group for corporate CEOs. You think that the corporate interests like don't have enough power, right? Like they already have there are already thousands of trade associations, which are really lobbying groups. There are thousands of them already operating in Washington. The Business Roundtable is a lobbying group for CEOs, and the Business Roundtable is saying that actually this would harm the economy to add court seats because people need to know which how things are going to go, right? Like they need the reliability of a court system that doesn't ever change. And it's these are
when you add more Supreme Court justices, it's sort of like when a company puts like more shares out there. Like dilutes the current holder shares, obviously. So
that's right. Well, too many cooks, right? We'd have way too many cooks in this kitchen. It's and that is actually kind of the argument you're even seeing from the Biden people from this commission is that there's like this slippery slope where like if Democrats added 2 seats right now to change the makeup of the court, then Republicans would do the same thing. Republicans would do the same thing when they have power, and like. I don't know what to say to it. Maybe they would. Probably true, but it's like actually, it's how you get out of this mess. And it actually is funny we're even talking about 2 seats, right? Like they're actually basically considering John Roberts, who used to be a chamber attorney, like an attorney for them. They're considering him like basically a Democratic vote, which I guess is it's hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom thinking that way a few years ago.
Right. Yeah, the fact that they're only thinking 2, like they should be adding a lot more. They should just make it. They should stack the. First of all, again, why such small numbers? We've expanded the court. The Supreme Court wasn't always 9 justices. Yeah.
Well, and there's talk of you can add a lot of members if you wanted, and then have them rotate, right? Like that's one of the proposals under consideration, but none of it's really worth debating too finely because. End of the day, they're not going to do this, right? Like they're just not going to do it. People can complain about it. People can say like, we expected better. Like we thought you were going to stand up for abortion rights. But, these people are really sad sacks. They're really sad sacks. And it's you can't argue with them being so lazy and incompetent.
Right. I mean, they can't even get voting rights done. And that's, and that's something where I feel like, they're, these are the groups and organizations and activists behind voting rights are people who basically, and organizations who basically said they basically help the Democrats win like an important part of the coalition. Without them,
Hmm.
Democrats would across the board lose. There'd be no point. It'd be just, but those votes deliver for them every election year, and the Democrats can't even thank them by making sure that those very people can vote with these
Yeah.
voting rights laws.
Yeah, they won't protect the people who vote for them, and I mean, actually, it's such a ridiculous issue because like they won't even stand up for their own right to function to function and win as a political party. Like they won't preserve their own place in Washington. Like they won't even do that. It's if you think like these people are just self-interested, like they're they're not only self-interested. A lot of them are, but they are also shockingly lazy. They're shockingly lazy, don't want to do anything, really. And I mean, on the self-interest issue, the truth is, if you are a Democratic senator and you lose re-election, you have a few $100,000 a job waiting a year waiting for you. Like at K Street, you do. It is ready for you. Like whenever you're done, whenever you've lost, you can go get a new job, one that pays very well to represent the same corporate interest who bankrolled your campaign.
All right. I just want to say before I forget that Business Roundtable sounds like, a supervillain type name that you would see in like DC Comics or something. Like Batman had to stop the Business Roundtable. What kind of I don't know if Batman would be the one to do that. Actually, Batman would be the ones would be the guy
He's on it.
saving the Business Roundtable from
Yeah,
like, I don't know, Aquaman or Green Lantern or something.
yeah.
That's where some Justice League infighting would happen. But so who makes up the Business Roundtable? Like, what CEOs are they representing?
I mean, it is like the biggest businesses in the country. Like Jamie Dimon is on the Business Roundtable. Jeff Bezos from Amazon has been on it. If you look it up, it really is like a who's who of like Fortune 100 companies. And yeah, like they didn't have like enough power to lobby against the interests of their employees and obviously the people who as a consumer, the people who give them money. But like they literally need to be like a lobbying group to even have more power than their executive level, right? Like it's the most ridiculous thing. And in the Business Roundtable, they're treated as like this like kind of esteemed organization. But like they also, if you ever like look them up, like they run tons of like radio ads that go just under the radar. No one ever like looks into them, but they've run like tons and tons and tons of radio ads against the Democrats' agenda this year. Um, and their biggest interest is preserving corporate tax rates, obviously. Um, and yeah, it's funny because a few years ago they made this statement that got all kinds of acclaim, where they said that they believed, their members, their signatories believed that that the purpose of the company should not be like the purpose of a company should not only be to maximize shareholder value. And it was seen as something like groundbreaking, right? Like, wow, this is, late stage capitalism is going to, potentially take the boot off of, people's necks just a little bit. And like, it has not happened at all. They have not changed anything whatsoever about how they operate. Like, they are still the same organization they were then. And I don't know, the people at the New York Times and whoever else who wrote that up should really think about what they did.
Right. I'm looking right now. There were headlines that the Business Roundtable would push for an economy that serves all Americans. Oh, give me a break. I mean, give me a
Yeah,
break.
yeah, yeah. And here they are lobbying against expanding the court, saying that that would hurt the economy. Yeah, they literally say. I mean, I'll just read it because it's ridiculous. They said, in our view, increasing the size of the court is not only unnecessary, but would also harm our nation's economy and global competitiveness. Like it is this kind of nonsense that gets filed with regulators in regulatory comments. Like this kind of stuff from groups that, like the Business Roundtable, raise tens of millions of dollars every year to do this kind of crap. It is ridiculous.
And this is the thing that always. And let's actually get to this before I talk about this as a whole. Let's talk about this other group that you wrote about in this article, the National Federation of Independent Businesses. I mean, I feel like they're trying to get across with this very subtle, sort of more vague name. They're trying to maybe make it sound like they're I mean, you even say in there in your article that they call themselves the voice of small business, but again, they don't say small business in the in their title. It's National Federation of Independent Businesses, which gives me like real like focus on the family vibes. Like whenever you see a conservative organization with the word like family in their name, that they are going to be like the most batshit crazy, off the wall, far right wing institution that really does not care about you and your family. They basically just don't want you to like, they don't want, you to enjoy anything slightly risque on television. They don't want you to be able to have access to abortions. It's just horrible, horrible, people all around. But they're called Focus on the Family.
Yeah, yeah. There is like this, movement, like the anti-monopoly movement to support independent businesses. And I've never heard them say a kind word about the NFIB. I don't know how many independent businesses they actually work for, but there is also some portion of, well, I guess it's debatable how many, but there is a portion of, even if they represent small businesses, there are a lot of small businesses who are run by complete monsters and treat their employees terribly, right? Like so it's possible they have cobbled together enough monstrous small business owners to actually support this organization. And but yeah, their comment is pretty remarkable too. So they actually did oppose Merrick Garland in 2016. Under Obama, Obama's court pick, who never got a vote because Senate Republicans just didn't want to give him a vote. And I guess it turns out you don't have to really follow norms if you don't feel like it. That's something we've learned. I think we maybe have learned, but the Democrats have not quite caught up to that yet. So the NFIB supported or opposed Merrick Garland. They supported all of Trump's picks, including Barrett, and then they. Here they're saying that if you were to add court seats, it would be like turning federal courts into political spoils to be seized by the political party that prevails in congressional and presidential elections, which actually is kind of exactly how court appointments work, right? Like the person who is, in power, the party that is in power gets to appoint those judges. They are political spoils. It is the definition of political spoils. Anyway, they say that this would destroy the stability and predictability an effective free market economy requires. I just don't know about this argument. I've thought about it a lot. I cannot really make sense of it. The only argument you can really make is that this Supreme Court is great for business, right? Like they are a corporate star chamber. They're voting with the U.S. chamber at a clip never before seen. They voted with them. They ruled in their favor 83% of the time this last term, which is up. And they were already voting with them 70% of the time, or ruling with them 70% of the time. So, maybe you could make the argument that it would be for, not so great for big businesses to have a court that was any less captured than this. But the idea that an effective free market economy requires, a court to be this captured, I just don't know.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of money behind, supporting these picks, and obviously this money is not coming from, they're not sending out. I mean, they do send out emails to their average everyday Republican supporters for like $5 or whatever. But you think those people are, first of all, those people probably wouldn't even donate to like judge picks because they don't know that shit. And I mean, it's not up to them to know that shit. Those are not even positions they get to really have a say in. Obviously, other than voting for the party that gets to pick them. But this money is obviously coming from people with big pockets. And who else would have those pockets but these very corporations that we're talking about right now, who are represented by these lobby groups.
Yeah, yeah. So there's been, the Republicans have worked like really since the John Roberts appointment to develop a kind of conservative courts network. So the biggest name in that is the Judicial Crisis Network. It's always been kind of led behind the scenes by this guy named Leonard Leo, who was a senior executive at the Federalist Society. Everyone kind of knows the Federalist Society now. It's this like judicial, or it's this conservative like legal network. Like so many lawyers around D.C. who are Republicans, belong to FedSoc, and they go to these really stodgy, boring meetings that FedSoc hosts with in the last few years, like every single person in the Trump cabinet, right? Like I went to one of these conferences. I literally fell asleep listening to Alexander Acosta, who, would later have to unceremoniously resign. But I had no idea how interesting he was then. He was horrible, like just the worst speaker, the worst. But so Leonard Leo has been steering these kind of conservative groups, the Judicial Crisis Network, and this other one they use to kind of funnel all the money to it. And during the Trump presidency, and during the Obama, during the Merrick Garland court fight that stalled, they've been spending like tens of millions of dollars to help build this court. And Leo then he became Trump's judicial advisor. So he was helping Trump pick the picks and then running these organizations that spend a bunch of money to make sure they get confirmed. And we really have no idea who's funded like any of this stuff. Like it is a very, very dark money group. Sometimes you can figure out a little bit who funds these groups. It's just really never happened. Other than there was this group, the 45 Committee, which is tied to the Nebraska governor Pete Ricketts, his family. So yeah, that group gave some money, but there's really no sense of who donated to them. Their donations have always showed up in like literally like a 8-figure donation every time. Like if you can see on their tax returns that they received like a $14.5 million donation during the Kavanaugh fight, but no idea who actually funded that. No idea. They don't have to say, and no one's just letting that information out. And now they've rebranded this. They've built like a bigger network. It's called the Concord Fund, and now it fiscally sponsors Judicial Crisis Network. So they've now actually like professionalized the organization. They copied this trick from that this Democratic group created that runs this. It helps run Demand Justice, which is now supposed to be the liberal counterweight to this operation on the right. But like they've raised a lot of money. Also dark. No, not entirely clear who's funding them. But the thing is, they don't have a lot to work with, right? Like the Democrats in Congress are sad sacks. The Republicans in Congress really would like nothing more than to have a conservative supermajority on the Supreme Court, right? Like they have an easy job on the right, trying to convince them to go along with their picks, trying to convince them to keep Merrick Garland off the court. That was a no-brainer, right? Like Mitch McConnell just said no. He just said no. So they have a good alliance with Senate Republicans, and then Senate Democrats are not, they just don't operate on the same level, right? Like they're just not that interested. And now we see the pitfalls here, right? Like now Roe v. Wade is under threat. It's under threat, and they already let a pretty radical Texas abortion law go into effect a few months ago, right? Like where you can be like almost like a bounty hunter, right? Or you can sue your neighbors if they have an abortion. Like you can do that. Right. Yeah. So it's crazy, right? Like that's already we're talking right now about Roe v. Wade being under threat, but like that was probably a pretty clear sign of where things were going. And Texas, like people are already fleeing the state when they need abortions. Like that's already happening. So and of course, worth emphasizing, there are certain people who can afford abortions, and that's who can afford to travel and go get an abortion in another state, and that's people who have some resources. But people who don't have any money are going to be really, really negatively affected here. They're the people who are going to bear the brunt of this policy, and it's going to disproportionately hit the communities of color, who, by the way, vote Democrat by and large. So it is a real slap in the face to the people who the party supposedly cares about, the people who vote for them.
Right, right. Weren't there? Speaking of this money flying around. I mean, we obviously can't say for sure, but weren't there long time rumors now that I'm recalling, where Kavanaugh had all this like debt that suddenly all of a sudden disappeared, like personal debt that just disappeared suddenly when he got picked by Trump to be his Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've read some reporting on that where I think people think like the reason it was paid for, or the reason it just mysteriously disappeared, is that his parents probably just paid for it. Like, you don't have to report a gift from your family on those kind of disclosures. But yeah, no, it was ridiculous. Yeah, he had all these like social clubs that he would had racked up huge expenses at, like, or just memberships for. And he'd also bought all these Nats tickets, the Nationals baseball team tickets, for his buddies, and just never was reimbursed. So either they eventually reimbursed him or whatever, or his parents paid for it, or something worse happened. But the truth is, like, the conspiracy with Kavanaugh, and really all these people, is like right out there in front of you, right? Like, there is a conservative courts network that is going to raise tens of millions of dollars from people who we will never know their name, but from people who obviously have huge resources. It could easily be just a big corporate lobbying group funding this. There's very little to prevent that from happening, and we just would never really see the paper trail.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, the kind of people who can afford to put millions of dollars into anything obviously come from corporate America, right? Or have their own like fracking company, like, I don't know, or maybe their own casino, their own casino company. Those are the people who can afford to put these people on the court. And so, it's right out there. It's, following this stuff is difficult. And it is by design. It's by design. And, actually, so Democrats, worth highlighting, in some of these, voting rights bills, especially the kind of For the People Act, the real big one they've talked about, they want to require people to disclose, or groups that are involved in these court fights, to disclose their donors. That's one of the central elements of the For the People Act. So, it's one of those things where if Democrats really wanted to unmask these people, really all together wanted to unmask them, they could do it. They could do it, and are not going to pass the For the People Act. They've settled around smaller voting rights bills, smaller, more, I guess, focused bills is what they would probably say. But they're not going to pass that either, right? Like, because all of those bills, to pass any single one of them, would require eliminating or fundamentally reforming the filibuster that requires 60 votes to do just about anything other than pass a budget spending bill.
Right.
And they won't do it.
Right. Oh boy, we're in for it. And we got we still have everyone online today. I saw a bunch of people the argument over, and I believe this is going to be her legacy. What happens with Roe v. Wade when we talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg? I mean, there were calls back when Obama was president for her to step down, for her to retire, so Obama could pick her successor. And we can talk about Merrick Garland and how that seat was held, but the conversation around RBG was well before that. We're talking like years and years in a time when Obama very well could have picked her replacement. And now we are literally having like Groundhog Day, deja vu all over again with Breyer. There are calls now for him to step down. I believe he's even is he older than she was when the original calls for her to step down?
I'm not sure. He's old.
Yeah. I mean, and he's saying the same thing that she did. Obviously, a little bit different because part of her whole thing was that she, her legacy and how important it was for her as a, as a woman to be in that position, and her progressive bona fides, which was always bizarre that this whole notorious RBG thing came about well after Sotomayor was put on the Supreme Court, when she is by far more
Hmm.
progressive than RBG.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but that aside, we're now like living through this whole thing again with Breyer, and I feel like we're just on top of Democrats being lazy and doing nothing and not even caring about their own reelections, and the people who vote for them. They're just like, oh well, we're gonna stay on because that's what he's gonna do. Just like it's this ridiculous. Like the whole, I just can't. I just it's almost like, I don't even know what to say anymore. Honestly, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny, right? Because like RBG had that kind of like, icon status a little bit, had that kind of like cult of personality. Like Breyer does not have that, and they still can't push him out. Though, to be fair, like if he did retire, like, just a non-zero chance like that they'd screw that up too, right? Like that they screw up that appointment. They can't. They're gonna have to. They'd have to find someone who Joe Manchin can work with, right? Like who he's okay with. So yeah, I mean, it's great. It's a great time. It's a great time to cover this stuff. It's a great time to have an interest in politics.
So what is I guess to wrap things up here. Uh Obviously we talked about how the Supreme Court's looking grim, how Roe v.
Mm,
Wade's looking grim. But let's leave it here. What with these groups that are fundraising, obviously, we were talking about the Business Roundtable, the National Federation of Independent Businesses, and then the Federalist Society. What are they looking towards next? What is next on the agenda for these corporate lobbyists and far right judicial organizations?
I mean, the Judicial Crisis Network a few days ago launched a $300,000 ad campaign against this guy called Dale Ho, who works for the ACLU. He works on their voting rights project, the ACLU, and Joe Biden's trying to appoint him to a federal court, I think in New York. And yeah, they're spending $300,000 on that. Like that's how stacked they are, right? Like, and they're calling him Dark Money Dale Ho, like because they just do not care about anything.
Right.
Everything is a joke to these people, right? Like this is a group that is, spent tens of millions of dollars to pack the Supreme Court with conservative ideologues. And if you ask them like who are your donors, they would laugh at you. Like they just do not disclose that. That's like all they say, right? They're like, we don't disclose our donors. And here they are spending all this money to try to crush an ACLU voting rights guy, like to keep him off of a federal court. Yeah, they're just I think like they're almost bored, but like it's probably the experimental phase for them. Uh,
Right.
yeah, like can we crush a federal court appointee, like someone who just no one really cares about, right? Like no one really cares about like this court. Can we do that too? And the answer is probably yes, because the truth is they actually started, not started, but they've spent years like building conservative courts like in other states too, like in Wisconsin. They've been very active there. They put a whole bunch of money into like this death penalty fight in Nebraska to restore the death penalty a few years ago. That is, they are like Christian ideologues, but they're like that kind of Christian ideologue group. Like they believe very strongly in the death penalty. To
Gotta
the point
love,
where,
just like Jesus.
yeah, I think that's right.
Right.
Yeah,
He was all
yeah,
about that. He loved death and destruction. That's what he was all about. I mean, I know God was all about death and destruction for real, but Jesus very
Yeah.
clearly it was all about death and destruction.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're yeah, I mean they're special, they're a special group. I've reported on them for years, and yeah, they are. I mean, like, you do have to respect them as, like, as a person who follows this. Like, they've spent decades, or not decades, they've spent like a full decade packing these courts and never really seeing any of their donors made public at all. And they faced very little scrutiny up until their guy was appointed Trump's judicial advisor. And then I think they realized then that it didn't matter if they would face a little scrutiny, because they could just do whatever they wanted.
Right. I mean,
And it's
that's the overarching like Republican motto. I mean, we were talking about how they basically are calling who they're attacking like dark money when that's
hmm
them, but they don't care about hypocrisy. They know they can get away with it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They do these things.
yeah.
They are the very things that they market to the base Republicans that they should hate. They are those things. And, they think you're right. They probably do think it's hilarious because it works. It's just so easy for them. They are really seeing like the fruits of their years and years of labor finally come to fruition now.
hmm
They got their Supreme Court. They got Trump, who packed lower courts too. All
hmm
these lower court positions that Obama just left open, Trump was filling them up. It's almost. I mean, it should be criminal. It should be criminal. A, what the Republicans get away with, and B, what the Democrats let Republicans get away with. Like, both of
Yeah.
these things should be criminal. Like, it is disgusting, and it's at, of course, the detriment of the people who've got no power, who vote for both these parties, and will be feeling the effects of Republicans getting what they want and Democrats letting Republicans get what they want.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. That sounds
It's
about right.
yeah. It's so frustrating. It really is. But yeah, we could always just hope that maybe one day Republicans will want to cross that aisle and shake hands and be all about bipartisanship with the Democrats. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, right? Meeting in the
Yeah.
middle, Andrew,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe one day they'll, there's that strain of thought that maybe that's how we get Medicare for all. And yeah, if we start hoping hard enough that Republicans give us Medicare for all, maybe that'll happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And it's almost, this is the point I wanted to make. We could wrap it up here, but I also wanted to make this point. Like, whenever we talk about, and when I mean I'm talking about progressives and leftists talk about, capitalism and, this capitalist class, these CEOs, these executives. I mean, speaking specifically of the Supreme Court, we had a Facebook exec literally show up to Kavanaugh's hearings and then go to his party when he was voted to be on the Supreme Court. Like, go to his little house party. Like, these guys make tons of money, laugh at you because they get what they want, both politically, and then because they get what they want politically, they get what they want, financially and in every other sense of the word, whatever they want, and societally. They basically call the shots and come out winners every time. And it always frustrates me when, you have liberals and people who just don't pay attention, who are just like, but there's good corporations. Oh, when a corporation speaks out against Trump, we should go and, buy their products and thank them for it. But it's like, these guys don't care about you. Look at AT&T.
hmm
Literally, when it just came out, in the past couple of months, that they literally are fun. Like, they're the reason One America News Network exists.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like these corporations do not care about you. Anything they pretend to care about for you is all just a marketing scheme. It's all just for good press. It's all for show. Because when it comes down to it, they will do whatever it takes to prop up and support Republicans, because the Republicans are scratching their back and making sure they get to run away with an obscene amount of money, pay little to nothing in taxes, and that's really all they care about. If your abortion rights, if your voting rights, if your health, if all that, the environment, if all that shit goes down and up in flames and gets thrown out the window, it's all worth it. At the end of the day, they'll have their little bunkers in New Zealand, or their mega mansions, or their rockets to Mars or the moon, or wherever they think they're going to escape tomorrow. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters for them.
Yeah. Well, I believe that is, a symbol of the stability and predictability that an effective free market requires. That's something we should probably consider a little bit more, right?
Right. Andrew Perez of the Daily Post, senior editor of the Daily Poster, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This conversation at this particular time especially was needed by me, first of all, because as you can see, I'm getting very angry. But also, thank you for taking the time at the sort of last minute. I reached out to you earlier today. Please, the article that we discussed can be found in the description of the YouTube live stream, the public Patreon page for this live stream, and obviously check it out. A lot of good stuff in there with links to other relevant articles that we didn't even touch upon in this interview. But also, feel free to take the time right now to promote whatever you'd like, upcoming piece, your Twitter account, where people can find you elsewhere, whatever you'd like. Go ahead. Floor is yours, Andrew.
All right. So yeah, this piece, was brought to you. I work for the Daily Poster. Our website is dailyposter.com. And yeah, we are a reader-supported independent news outlet, and we're focused on money and politics and also policy, trying to make things more understandable for people who don't have time to watch CNN or MSNBC and who find them distasteful anyway.
All right. Yeah, I would say you're providing a service that you wouldn't even get if you paid attention to CNN and MSNBC. Honestly. Think you're even you're being very humble and modest there, Andrew. Have a great night. Where can people find you on Twitter? I just realized.
My handle is Andrew Perez DC.
All right, Andrew. Have a great night. Thanks again. Really appreciate you taking the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the second half of the show. But first, what happened to my little, here we go. But first, I forgot to fix the background there. I'll fix it right now. No big deal. Boom. But first, patreon.com/Matt Binder to support this show. Folks, yesterday was December 1st, the first of the month. As you know, if you're a regular listener of this show, that's when Patreon charges everybody who's a patron. And lo and behold, of course, that is also when people decide that they want to cancel, or, unfortunately cards get declined because cards expired, etc. Things happen. And obviously this time specifically, December specifically, with the holidays, money is tight. Totally get it. If you canceled or have to cancel, totally understand. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, buy those gifts, or if it's not even that, pay that rent, cover those bills, whatever you need to do. Please, you come first. You can always come back and support this show later if you can. But if that's not you and you got a little bit of extra money in your pockets, or you are an executive or CEO at a major corporation and are looking to put your money into something other than a dark money group that's going to fund future judicial picks, you should become a patron of this show. We lost more people than usual yesterday. We have dipped under that goal that goal I had, and we now have to reach the goal once again that I already hit. It's kind of frustrating, but again, it happens. So yeah, patreon.com/Matt Binder to support the show. If you are monetarily, financially able to do so. I ask for $5 suggested. You give a little bit more. You give a little bit less. You can give a lot more, too, if you'd like. But also, still demonetized on YouTube, unfortunately. So if you'd like to give a one-off donation, you could do so at twitch.tv/MattBinder, where I am streaming. I'm also streaming at youtube.com/MattBinder. Also, you can give one-off donation at my Twitter page, at MattBinder. There is if you're on the you have to be in the mobile app. There's a tip jar logo on my profile. You click that, and you'll see all the links to my Cash App, Venmo, etc. That's for one-off donations, like a one-time thank you tip. But Patreon's the best if you like to, if you can do a subscription. Doomedcast.com for the podcast version of the show. Obviously, youtube.com/MattBinder. Subscribe there if you're not already. I post regular clips from the live stream of just the segments, good for sharing and watching if you can't watch the full show. I now do a Twitch exclusive stream every Tuesday, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Follow me there. At MattBinder on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you could find me. What else? Oh, before we jump to the ratethispodcast.com/doomed, ratethispodcast.com/doomed for all the links to where you can leave a podcast review. It's big help in helping give us some numbers so we can shoot up the podcast rankings and more people can find this show. And before we jump to the second half of the show, all you live stream viewers and all you patrons, you can stick around for the second half of the show. We only lose those freebie podcast listeners for the second half of the show, at least for now. Maybe one day in the near future, I will cut off more people. You'll have to be patrons or something. But for now, live stream viewers can still stick around. But before we jump to the second half, let me thank those very people who have become patrons since the last show. We did not stream last Thursday because last Thursday it was a rare day off. I'm not going to say week off because I did a Twitch stream last Tuesday, but a rare Thursday off. I rarely do that. But obviously it was Thanksgiving. I hope you spent time with family, friends, or got some very much needed relaxing time with yourself. You know, just home in bed, watching TV, surfing the web, who knows, whatever you do for fun. I hope you had time to take for yourself. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. And let me thank those people who became patrons since the last Thursday show. That was what? The 18th. Let's jump back there. Okay. Dan S., White Damp, Tim T., Kreshno S., ADDFDX, Matt E. B., Sean D., Jeremy H., James Z., Is Your Guy, and Albert C. Thank you. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons over the past couple of weeks. Really appreciate it. And obviously, if you can become a patron, please do so if you'd like. All right, let's go to the second half of the show. I got a bunch of good stuff. You're gonna want to stick around. This is a packed second half of the show. I'm gonna open up the phone lines. Open up Skype. Open up your Skype. Download Skype if you don't have it. It's free. And search Doomed Live. That's Doomed Live. One word, Doomed Live. Call it. I will take your call. We can have a conversation about whatever you'd like. But other than calls, I got a great story involving Tucker Carlson, Lin Wood, and Hunter Biden. I got another very interesting story concerning Joe Biden and drones and drone strikes. And then I have a very interesting segment I've prepared for you guys on what happened when Twitter installed a new CEO this week. And basically a bunch of right-wingers pulled up a decade-old tweet from him. It's, interesting, hilarious. You'll want to catch it. And all of those are great stories that you'll get to hear in just a few minutes. For live stream viewers and patrons, stick around. Give me a minute to just basically take a breather. For everybody else, I will see you all next time on Doomed. All right, we are back. It is the second half, the patron only half of Doomed with Matt Binder. Donald James asked, is your monetization getting restored, Matt? I'm still not remonetized. I was able to reapply as of November 20th. I have not received a determination yet as to whether I've been remonetized. I had to wait a full month from when they demonetized me before even just reapplying. It could take another full month, so December 20th, possibly even longer, before we even get this, I even get an answer. So this sucks. Honestly, it's a big hit losing the super chats. Obviously, I'm not making a full-time income from super chats, but a couple $100 a month is certainly nothing to scoff at. Thankfully, Twitch has been there to pick up a little bit of the slack. I recently monetized my Twitch channel. I'm a Twitch affiliate. That's been a big help. But super chats actually do give you a little bit more. The Twitch stuff is really just for people who like having fun with how Twitch does things. So just how the super chats are fun for people who want to get their comment read. So I totally get it. The real way to fund this show is Patreon. But please, however you'd like to. No complaints from me about how you want to help out this show. Trust me. Let's take a call or two. There's a few people who tried calling in right away. A call will help me, get someone else talking will help me out here a little bit as I get ready to do these segments. Letting the people who called in. Oh, here we go. Hey, what's your name? Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
G'day, Matt. It's John from Australia. How you doing?
Hey, John from Australia. I am doing great. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I don't know if this is if you've announced this yet. I had to duck in and out of the show earlier, but I heard on the Majority Report that you're kicking off a crypto-only show. Did I hear that right?
Yes, you did. I forgot to mention that on the first half of the show, but I have mentioned it before on the second half of the show, what we're listening to right now. Of course, I would give my listeners here and patrons especially that the first crack at that info, but I did announce it on the Majority Report earlier today. That is correct. I am starting a crypto-centric show. I will be announcing the name publicly very shortly, but yes, a show that will exclusively dive into cryptocurrency, the blockchain, NFTs, Web3, all that fun, wonderful, aka horrible, terrible, dystopian stuff.
All my favorite topics. I'm so stoked. And as you said on the Majority Report, it's really important that from a sort of a leftist perspective that these things get covered. by people who are sort of, willing to dive in and sift through all of the bullshit.
Right, right. I mean, it's sort of surprising to me that this is. I mean, listen, crypto has been around for a while now. I mean, Bitcoin is now over a decade old, and it's a bit surprising to me that yes, there's some great critics out there. Not enough, in my opinion, honestly, but there are some great critics out there, and there are some YouTubers and podcasts that I've come across that do a great job of calling out the scams with this, which this show will do as well. But in terms of a medium dedicated to the critique of the overall industry and not just calling out the outright scams, like I'm talking about, like with political analysis, with just talking about how the whole industry as a whole, like crypto as a concept, as in totality, is just like not what it's being portrayed as. I'm a little bit shocked that outside of like writers, in terms of like the other mediums, it's just like almost nothing there really. It's about, I was very surprised because I really did look into this before deciding to do this, because I didn't want to, like, if I came across like a bunch of other channels who were doing this, sort of like when I launched Doomed, there wasn't like 20 other shows doing exclusive like right-wing politics and conspiracy theories, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of shows doing right-wing politics and covering the right. So hopefully the same thing doesn't happen here, where now that I'm doing this, there's going to be 20 crypto shows critiquing it.
Well, yeah. And look, it seems like you're in pretty good company. It was earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday for you, but it was earlier today for me, that everyone's favorite leftist, Glenn Greenwald, posted an episode of his show, System Update, where he interviewed a person by the name of the Blockchain Socialist, where they talked about crypto from a leftist perspective. So you're in good company, I would say.
I have to watch that. I didn't know he had him on. The Blockchain Socialist has gone, has tweeted at me a number of times. Obviously, he disagrees with me very much. I will have him on. He's wanted to come on, and there is a lot of overlap, obviously, with Doomed, because the show primarily discusses what's happening on the right, and conspiracy theories and misinformation and things like that. And I consider cryptocurrency as a whole to be very much in that broader world. But I think I think. What I want to do with this show, though, is obviously I will still be coming at it with a leftist perspective, but I don't want it to be part of I wanted to separate it from this show, because obviously this show has a particular audience. If you are someone who doesn't consider yourself to be like vehemently like anti everything right, everything right wing. You're not like, a leftist or a progressive who views the right. I mean, you should, in my opinion, but this show is probably not on your radar. You're not going to listen to this show. So I think there is a lot of this crypto stuff that gets, that if I had it on this show, it wouldn't get the audience that it would possibly get if it was just like a crypto show. Now, obviously, I'm going to make it very obvious. It's a crypto, anti-crypto, like crypto critique show in the title itself. And, when you guys hear the name of the show, I think I'm not going to unveil it yet, but I think you'll know exactly
where you're coming from.
Where I'm coming from. But I thought it was important to separate it, especially now that I am seeing over the past couple of months this whole idea about about Web3 being pushed so hard. Because this is how they're going to try to get everybody who is just outside this world, doesn't have any interest in crypto or NFTs, because maybe they've looked into it and they just find it utterly confusing, and because it is, and they've written it off. This Web3 branding is going to be how they push it. It's how the VCs are getting into it. It's basically going, I mean, they used Web 2 to push the social web, and look at Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and where all these companies are. They're the new big conglomerates. But at least in my opinion, there is some function to the social web, Web 2. Like Web 2, we lost some stuff with Web 2, the social web, like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all these other social networks. Like they're big negatives, but we also gained. You know, I think the idea that we're able to communicate, that I'm able to even do this show with you guys, is huge. Like they were trade-offs, but you know, we can argue whether it was net positive or net negative, but we got something out of it. You know, we're communicating with people, and that was the ideals they sold to us, right? That we want to bring the future of communication to all of you. We want you to be able to connect with people all around the world, meet people who have your interests, and we're able to do that using these platforms. I don't, we obviously line their pockets too by using their platforms, but we did get something out of it, I think.
Well, yeah, spot on. The important thing to remember about that is that, like, ultimately the goal of Web 2 was to facilitate, or it was maybe it was working at the same time, but it was the era of big data, right?
Right.
Like it either ushered it in or was part of the ushering in of that age that we're part of, where everything ties into these platforms, where masses of information are just swirling about constantly, and it's not just who you are, but it's what you're doing at every given moment of every given day. Like Web3 isn't going to be these cute little things that they're talking about where you buy NFTs or it's a metaverse. It's going to be something else.
Oh,
There's
Web3.
something behind.
Oh, Web3.
Yeah.
I think the funny thing about Web3 is that they can't even hide it, because there's nothing like the social web was sold with the noble aspect of we're going to be able to communicate with people all over the world. We're going to be connected. We'll be able to, obviously use these tools to for all sorts of different things. And again, I think in some aspects, obviously there are things they got out of it, but in some aspects we did achieve some of those things. With Web3, there isn't even like the nicely painted walls for them to even hide behind. What they're selling Web3 is that we want everyone to get a piece of the monetary pie. Everything's for sale. Everyone's going to own a share of everything. Everything is a commodity, and we want to own as much of it as possible. And we're going to let you guys have the ability to own some of it too. You might not be able to afford it, but we're still giving you the opportunity to do it. It's like Web3 is literally the same exact argument that like they make for that politicians make for like healthcare. Like, it's available to you. I'm sorry you can't afford it, but it's available to you. Like, that's how they're going to sell this shit, because that's what it is.
Yeah. And they're telling on themselves a little bit too, I think, in that they say, Web3 is like the ownership web. You'll truly own your digital items and movies and music and whatever, right? But to tell someone, like a regular person, like, you'll truly own it, they go, well, I don't now. Like, why don't I own it? I buy songs off iTunes. Why don't I own it? I bought it, right? And then they have to explain, actually, it's a license that we set up initially. That's the way we went down. And now we're going to say, well, you'll actually own the license. You'll actually own the entry in the database that says you own it, but the content isn't actually yours to have at any point in time. But again, that's sort of getting into the weeds. What I wanted to tell you was that definitely, if you hadn't already, check out that Glenn Greenwald, the blockchain socialist.
I'm glad you
interview.
Told me. I'm glad I got to check it out.
It is unreal.
I want to say this straight up. There is nothing. I've seen this a lot, not just from this person, blockchain socialist. I've seen, there was a tweet I read the other day on the Twitch stream, if I remember correctly, where it was like, I love Web3. We're secretly convincing a bunch of tech VCs and like big moneyed tech entrepreneurs to become socialists. And it made me laugh so hard. And it's like, are you serious? You really think you're the ones playing them? They're playing you. They're the ones making you think that you're taking part in something socialist.
Revolutionary.
It
Yeah.
is hilarious because you are the dupe, little guy. You think these big moneyed folks are falling for your dirty tricks? No, how do you think they got all this money? They're the kings at the dirty tricks. They make the dirty tricks. They're the ones who created the game. You think you're playing them with it? Like, it's incredible. There is nothing socialist about crypto, the blockchain, Web3, none of it. It is capitalist at its very core. It is all inherently right-wing. It is, in many aspects, libertarian utopianism. It is the furthest from leftism you can think of.
One thing while you're watching it, I want you to listen out for is the most incredible point that Glenn makes, which is that anything has the potential to do something good or do something bad. Like anything can be good or anything can be bad. So there's nothing inherently bad about blockchain and cryptocurrency. It's completely sort of like ideologically agnostic. It doesn't like mean anything. And he goes down into this little sort of like rabbit hole of a thought that he has about this, and says, like early leftists criticized the internet and said that it would be like a waste of time, which I don't necessarily think is actually true. I don't know any too many instances of early leftists criticizing the internet. In fact, like a lot of early leftists kind of built the internet as we know it in terms of like early Silicon Valley types. They're all hippies, right? Like, to say that early leftists like didn't think they thought that the internet was going to be bad and a distraction. But there's a great quote that he says, which is, quote, "Even if there is the ability for venture capitalists to launder money or to engage in get-rich-quick schemes or to use some kind of scheme to circumvent tax laws, that might be a harm that needs controlling, or maybe that's a harm we can't do anything about. But you still have to look at the other side of the equation in order to evaluate on the whole whether it's a net benefit or not." The thing is, podcast goes for an hour and 20 minutes. That's in the middle of it. And throughout the entire podcast, they really didn't give any benefit.
That's great. I gotta tell you,
other than, hey, I can evade U.S. sanctions and transfer money to another country, right? Like,
I gotta tell you, I want to end this show right now just so I can go listen to this. This is how well you're selling this to me. It is. First of all, that argument is completely wrong. The whole idea that nothing's inherently this or that when it comes to crypto, because it actually is. Because we know via Satoshi's white paper on Bitcoin that this was going to inherently be a project with libertarian ideologies.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah.
In its very white paper, the thing that crypto people always say whenever a new coin is launched, to really get an understanding, a scope of the project before you invest in it, you should really read the white paper and understand it so you get a real sense of where this is going, who's behind it, what their whole deal is. Well, in the white paper, Satoshi goes on this whole thing about the Federal Reserve and, the gold standard. This is the Ron Paul this was during that time period, like Ron Paul running for president. This was that. This was inherently created with libertarian right-wing ideology. The idea that nothing is inherently this or that is bullshit, and it's especially bullshit when it comes to cryptocurrency.
Well, even if that were true, right? Even if we were to accept that sort of the idiom of nothing is inherently good or bad, no technology is inherently good or bad, right? There is still loads of technology that we all agree probably we shouldn't engage in because it's really bad, right? Like let's not use chemical weapons. Let's not use nuclear weapons. Let's not do eugenics. Let's not do human cloning. We all agree that the outcomes of these things are largely pretty bad, right? I guess technically, if you had to pin me down, nuclear weapons aren't inherently bad. Atoms being split aren't inherently evil, I guess. But like, we all agree that it's bad. This idea that technology isn't inherently good or evil, so you can't criticize it. You just have to. Maybe there's a good form of it. It's just absurd to me.
One of my favorite things that I hear is that from these like there's just a few of them, but these leftists or pseudo leftists who try to push crypto, they always say, the left is really dropping the ball here. The right totally got on board with crypto, and we're just letting them take charge. This isn't a chicken or the egg situation. This isn't. Well, they're not like understanding the technology better than the left, and that's why they're so far ahead. Let's really think about why they're so far ahead. Let's try to put two and two together here. And that's because it was made for them. I mean, come on. The reason they are the ones taking advantage of cryptocurrency is because they're the ones it was made for. Like,
folks, the right is grifting better than us. We need to start grifting as well. We all need to start grifting because maybe we could be good grifters.
Right.
The right's just bad grifters.
Right. Always a great a great time when you call in. Thank you so much.
No worries, mate. Have a good one. Cheers.
Peace. I'll take one or two more calls and then I'll do some stories. We had some people calling in during that call, so I got to make sure they know to call back in. Here we go. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
No worries, mate. Have a good
Hey, is this me?
This is you. Just turn your stream down.
I did. Wow, I did. There's a bit of a lag on my end. I can't believe I got in. This is pretty awesome. Yeah, my name's Ryan. I'm from Rhode Island.
Hey, Ryan from Rhode Island. What would you like to talk about?
So on my stream, I was listening to the Australian guy. He was talking about, the nature of technology, I guess. And I guess he was saying, I guess that's the first thing I would talk about is I think there's, I kind of disagree with.
Oh, hold on. You sound really far away now. Like you left your phone or something.
Oh, how about now?
Much better. Much better.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, the Australian guy, he was saying something like, there's certain technologies that we all kind of agree that, we shouldn't engage with. And he kind of gave like nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, things like that. But I think it kind of misses the point in some respect, because yes, I agree that there are things that we don't want to engage in, but it's not necessarily the technology itself, it's what we do with it, I think. And I think, like, take nuclear weapons, for example. I mean, the flip side is nuclear power, but also, and I know a lot of people don't like nuclear power because of the waste, things like that. But at the same time, it could be a way to help wean us off fossil fuels. It could be a step in the right direction, right? I think it's more the how you use the technology and what we do with it, who owns it, things like that. Same thing for like, I know you're big. The new big thing is cryptocurrency. That's what you guys were kind of talking about as well. It's like the problem with Bitcoin isn't that it's based on blockchain, right? The blockchain is just a distributed database, right?
Right.
It's being used in this way to emulate basically the worst excesses of capitalism, right? It's how it's being used in this way to like basically emulate specie a specie monetary system, right? So it's like, I guess my disagreement there is, I think as like a leftist, I would say we should be not necessarily like being Luddites completely. I think there's some like good things that the Luddites did, but at the same time, we should be trying to understand the technology and trying to advocate for different ways to use it. Basically owning the means of production, right? The technology is a one of those means of productions.
Sure.
And so we should be advocating for like a different use or a different way to use these things, right?
Sure. I mean, my
That's
thing
kind of
with
my 2 cents.
my thing of crypto in the blockchain basically though is, where it isn't inherently bad, it's pointless. There's nothing that there's nothing new there. It's presented as new, but what is the blockchain basically? It's a database. This stuff has existed in different forms, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. Crypto is basically just digital numbers on your screen that we have given value to because it's been commoditized, commodified. I should say.
Yeah, exactly. I think I 100% agree with you. Basically, what I'm saying is like what we should be advocating for instead is instead of using a blockchain for emulating currency or like a gold-based currency, we should be saying, well, there's these other uses for blockchain. Yeah, it's not new. Blockchain existed way before Bitcoin, but I mean, it wasn't being used at all, really. I mean, in anything super important. I mean, I just think of
I would love
could
if
have been
there
used,
was.
and this isn't like a socialist kind of position, but even something so mundane as using it to record property deeds, right? That could have, if if that was implemented before the financial crash, I think it's arguable that a lot of people wouldn't have been kicked out of their homes because there would have been like a ledger of all the ownership of who owns the deeds. I'm not saying advocating for like property rights or whatever. I'm just saying like I'm just trying to think of an example of like here's a different way to use the technology that would be better for
Right, sure. I'm all
everyday
for.
people,
I'm
right?
all for.
It's not glamorous. It's not like sexy. Like you could be rich or whatever, or you're gonna make, you're gonna do all this speculation. It's not like exciting, and maybe that's a problem. Maybe this is not the best example, but
Right. I mean, I'm all for
it-
transparency, technology that gives transparency. In my
Yeah.
opinion, blockchain does not do that. I see what you're saying about a public like ledger of like property deeds could certainly be helpful. Obviously, there's no doubt the current systems, like there's no doubt that like when I criticize crypto and the blockchain and Web3, I'm not saying the current system is great. That's not my argument. My argument is what these tech VCs and crypto advocates are advocating for solves none of the issues they claim to have with the current system. In fact, in many ways, they actually make them even worse. So
sure.
that's
No,
my.
I 100% agree.
And I do think this is the technology as a whole. I think it cannot be changed to do what you were saying. Now, can the idea that what these things were meant to do, or not? That's not even true either. Let me try is the good things that you believe the idea of a blockchain could do. Could they be used to actually create a new technology that actually does those things? Of course, sure, I would love for that to happen. But this specific technology does not do that. I don't think it'll ever do that. This does. I also want to say as an addendum, because I got to always make this clear too. I am not saying I know the future of what's going to happen with this stuff. I hate, and I've said this before, I hate those people who I hate that when not those people. I hate when people try to say, "Oh, this shit's gonna die off in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever." I think that's pointless because how successful or unsuccessful it is completely irrelevant to the critique. People, very shitty, horrible things become big successes all the time. Who knows how far crypto and the blockchain could go? If anything, the bigger and more prominent it gets, the more important the critiques are, in my estimation.
No, yeah,
But
I agree. I guess I think blockchain is probably a bad example. I can't think of anything good, but obviously that doesn't necessarily negate it. I'm just saying, I think the nature of however you want to call it, technology, innovation, it can be used for good. I guess
I think the best example is like what we're seeing with space exploration. I think that's a great example. Like, no doubt, space exploration is super important. And even just like beyond the actual scientific benefits, what NASA was doing in like the 60s really galvanized a nation around really like legitimately. We talk about like what the things that unified the country. I mean, literally, we had an entire nation watching their TV as man stepped on the moon and felt there was a sense of national pride, and to me a rare instance of good national pride where it was actually like a net benefit, scientific benefit. No, it wasn't over some war with people dying. It was literally something good. Not many instances
actually,
I can think of.
That kind of rolls into my... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and now what is space exploration? It's a bunch of fucking rich billionaires self-filleting themselves over who gets to space first, who gets the big government contracts, who gets to like start making the most money off of space tourism. It's become completely commodified. It's disgusting now. And, there goes any sense of, pride in, in actual scientific space exploration.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it brings up a pretty good point, especially NASA in the early days. I mean, that's how the microwave was invented, right? Because they needed to figure out a way to cook food in a pure oxygen environment, which is flammable. You can't have an open flame. So they invented the microwave. And then, but part of the problem is I guess, I don't know the whole history there, but it's also something that's like commodified too. But that's just the capitalist system we live under, right?
Right.
In a certain sense. But, that's, I guess the point there is, when you have, you don't know what you're going to figure out when you start trying to invent new things, right? And that's like just a secondary minor problem that they had to solve. And then it's something that kind of like revolutionized basically how people live their lives. I mean, the microwave.
I do have to add an addendum here. Ryan Lennon fan is pointing out very accurately that even, space exploration in the 60s was tied into war, the Cold War.
Yeah.
And very important point to point out.
Communism.
Yes, right, of course. But what I was my point more generally was usually we have a public that's cheering directly for a war, like how we remember this country during, the days after 9/11 with Afghanistan and Iraq, and even how people were cheering in the streets when Osama bin Laden was killed. In that sense, the space exploration of the 60s was not direct. Like, people weren't watching their TV, hoping America killed somebody, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, and I mean it's a unifying point for most of the country, right? I catch your drift. I think, I guess that's kind of, I guess all I was trying to say is I think it's like some sort of inanimate object is not really the problem. It's like us using. It's kind of, I don't want to make it sound like it's the gun debate or something, but it's kind of like it's what we do with it as a society, right? And what, like, I think it does just come down to ownership of the means of production. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's like if it was a collective ownership, I don't think certain things would be used in the way to like, perpetuate the horrors of our current capitalist system, basically.
All right. I do have to jump. There's a bunch of people, a lot of people on the phone, and I gotta get to some stories. But I really appreciate the call. I really appreciate the point. I disagree on many things, but I understand the point you're trying to make, and I think it is quite relevant when it comes to a number of things. So I appreciate the call. Feel free to call in again in the future.
Sure. Thanks, dude.
Take care. All right, I'll do one more call, and then I want to get to these stories, and then we'll see if I have time to take more calls after. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's John from Peoria.
Oh, hey, John. Can I put you up on the screen so I see you have your video on?
Sure.
All right, cool. Hey, what was it to talk about?
Well, I can't top the guy from Australia, but in regards to crypto, but I was wondering if you're aware that Miramax is suing Tarantino for NFT.
Oh, I saw that. I did see that. Fuck that shit, man. I hate them both. I'm not gonna defend either. I mean, I like Tarantino movies, sure, but the dude selling NFTs, fuck him. I'm not gonna cheer on Miramax.
He has a whole website dedicated to his NFTs called, Tarantino NFTs.
I mean, to me, the NFTs are the biggest scam of this entire thing. I mean, nothing is more pointless than an NFT. The idea that this is the future of collectibles, or this is actually like helping artists. Give me a fucking break. The people who are making the most money from NFTs are brand marketers and like internet marketers and the worst of the worst. Are there artists selling NFTs? Yes. Do I hope they make money off this scheme? Sure. They should get paid for their work. And if they want to do NFTs to try to get a little bit of the action, fine. I'm not going to force them not to or shit on them for doing so. But the vast majority of people making money on NFTs are fucking business people and brand managers who commissioned from an actual artist a handful of images that they then run through an algorithm to automatically generate thousands of bullshit images to then sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars and rake in the cash, while the artist they actually commissioned gets nothing but the original amount they agreed to. Which, remember, NFTs are supposed to solve that. NFTs are supposed to make sure that the artist gets a little piece of the pie every time an NFT is sold. Bored Ape Yacht Club, the biggest NFT project of them all. Millions and millions and millions of dollars being generated by the four guys who made that, who are just brand dudes and techies. They commissioned a group of artists to make those images, and that was it. Those artists got that one-time commissioned rate, and that was it. Yet these Bored Ape Yacht Club people are raking in the dough every time the NFTs are sold. I mean, give me a break. Even what the NFT advocates are trying to sell as the good thing about NFTs, in the largest, most successful NFT project, blows that whole idea out of the water. It's all a bullshit from the top to the bottom.
Well, my thing about it is, I mean, how much money is enough for either of these people? I doubt that Tarantino's starving. I know people running Miramax aren't. I doubt any of that money is ever going to be seen by the other people that help make Pulp Fiction. Yeah, that's my issue. I was wondering, and then I just had another comment that I wanted to, kind of discuss with you, because you were talking about Glenn Greenwald. So one time I remember you saying,
I want to watch that episode so bad. I'm so disappointed I'm doing a show right now. I want to just cancel the rest of the show and watch this. I'm not even gonna have to watch it tonight, because by the time I'm done with the show, I'm gonna be exhausted. So I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow to listen to this. You know how much that's eating at me right now? But go ahead.
So I was just going to point out, I think it was many months ago, I think, prior to like it must have been earlier this year, like maybe in March or something. I remember you saying words to the effect that you thought Glenn Greenwald was an old school attorney who believed in everyone has is entitled to a defense. And I was just pointing out, people my generation,
Well,
all.
let's be honest. That's not an old school. That's legit. Like that's
Right.
legitimate. Everyone
That's
is.
what I was going to say.
What I think I said, or what I meant to say, if I didn't say it, was that he's an old school attorney that wants to defend everyone's right to speech. Now, obviously, that is something everyone has a right to. What I would say was that as modern day, more modern day, you see maybe like the ACLU is deciding they don't want to defend. They think those people have a right to defense, but they're saying that they don't want to be the ones to defend those rights anymore. So some other lawyer can step in, and I think that's something we're seeing more of now. I think.
Well, but I was going to say also that I think that what is often missed in the discussion about Glenn Greenwald is, I think one can make the argument, that he defended. Let's say he defended one white nationalist or two white nationalists, but there's a point when you do it often enough that you kind of wonder, is this guy a white nationalist attorney? Right. Kind of like where, when is there a point when an attorney becomes a mobbed up attorney? When is that attorney just representing mob figures? And that's my issue with Glenn in regards to his law career. It was not like one guy that he defended. It was multiple guys. And I can honestly, I mean, I am fine with him being this weird free speech absolutist, which I think you were might have been discussing earlier. There's no such thing as on the Majority Report that there's no such thing as free speech absolutism. Right. The word, but I think it goes beyond it with him. I mean, I think he kind of that's all he sees. And when he starts, I mean, just look at some of the comments he made about people, like the Southern Poverty Law Center and other people going after white nationalists that, let's say the Charlottesville stuff, that injure people and then they're being sued out of existence. So he's made comments that that's the abuse of the court system. So, I mean, I think I think he is giving cover to a lot of white nationalism. It's not just an old school or a view of how you should defend people. I think it's more than that. Yeah, I mean, we should probably look into. I should probably do an episode about Glenn's. I mean, I should probably reach out to Glenn and he'll. I don't know if he'll do it, but from what one thing it seems like he'll do, hopefully, is talk to me. I know he won't talk to Sam, but there's a lot of people who won't talk to Sam Cedar because they're scared of him, I assume. Because the idea that he's in bad faith is absolutely ridiculous. All you got to do is watch any of the calls he takes with zero preparation. The idea he operates in bad faith is ridiculous. But they love pushing that because they're afraid of him. I as you people have seen, I've been able to get, discussions with Michael Tracy and other people, and me because he blocked me on. I mean, the real thing they dislike about Sam is that he's got no problem, like being a dick to them on the stream, because Sam is right, and then he decides to be a dick, and I mean, I think Sam earned it by completely owning these guys, but that's their real problem with him, I think. But Sam is, often very nice too. When he was very nice to Crowder when Crowder was on the air with him, and Crowder, because Sam obviously wanted Crowder to give him the time of day, but Crowder was too chicken shit to even do that. But I'm gonna reach out to Glenn. Let's see what I could get out of it. I was just going to one last point, just because of the last caller was pointing out that We really can't blame technology, I guess, or try to categorize as good or bad technology. And I think what he's I think a simpler example to what he was pointing out is, as far as like, let's say like an extreme example is nuclear. Like, yeah, we can have nuclear weapons, but we also there's a field called nuclear medicine. And a recent stay in the hospital surely taught me a lot about nuclear medicine. And so they're opposite sides of the coin that you can't really say, well, investigating nuclear science is somehow inherently evil.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure when you call in.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. This person's already calling in. Last call, not for the day. Last call. Let me do some stories, and then I'll try to take one or two more calls if there's time after. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Hello? Can't hear you. Sorry, I gotta hang up. All right. Let me do some stories then. I want to hit these segments. All right, here's this person again. Hello? Hello? There's something wrong with your your sound. I don't hear you. I gotta drop you again. Listen, I'm gonna temporarily. Let me take one more. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, it's Dave from Jamaica, who was not the person who was just calling in. That is a separate person.
It's a different person.
Yeah, whose audio wasn't working. Hey, Dave, what would you like to talk about? We can't go on our usual 30-minute convos.
I'm avoiding that because you got some work to do, and I'm not here to take you off of that. First things first. No offense to the callers previously, but in fairness to the Australian caller, he did use the word weapon.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Listen, you have a much better memory than me because I didn't remember, but I believe that is what he said. You're right.
So so let's try not to be pedantic, folks, right? I think you know what he means, right? So, but so I don't ramble on too much. So I'm glad that you're taking up the crypto thing because, like, yes, CoffeeZilla does expose the details of the scam, but I think people need to realize, and I think you know this better than anybody else, if you have a thing where you adding a next chain to it requires more computing power to maintain the system and to add the extra chain, crypto in general, right? It is an inherently wasteful technology.
Right. It's pointless because it's pointless, first of all.
Yeah.
Like whenever they bring up like, oh, crypto actually, it takes up less than this. Yeah, but that other thing, whatever it may be, is actually providing something to people. The energy is going towards something that people are using and actually benefiting from. Crypto is pointless. It's generating all that energy and causing all this pollution for zero reason.
I mean, why can't if people want crap to keep, if they want unique crap, why can't we just go back to selling trading cards? At least you could touch the card.
Right. And listen, I like CoffeeZilla's work a lot too, and a lot of people were, and I've actually spoken on the phone with him because like I told people on the Majority Report earlier today, I spoke with him for one of the crypto pieces I did earlier this year for Mashable. His work is great. He is fantastic at uncovering specific crypto scams. But if you watch his videos, he's not really anti the crypto in general.
Anti-scam.
He's anti-scam. In fact, if you listen, he's sort of kind of bullish on the blockchain. Like, he really likes it. He thinks it's great because it obviously enables him to uncover some of these scams because he's able to find out this
free
stuff.
content.
Yeah. But I mean, he's not anti-crypto and the blockchain.
Well, that's why I'm glad you're doing it because like you and Left Reckoning both are tackling why these things are bad in concept in the concept in of themselves.
Right. And I want to say there are great people who are critiquing crypto who I'm going to have on the show, obviously, who are doing a fantastic job, but they're mostly doing like written work, which is great. Articles are very important, but obviously you're missing out a whole section of the audience who basically gets their news from YouTube channels or podcasts. It's like, it really is like a desert almost when it comes to like the media on this stuff. It's almost all within like the crypto critique stuff is literally all in written word. Very rare stuff in other mediums. It's incredible.
Right.
I was very shocked.
But I guess, all right, as I said, I don't want to keep you long. So the thing I was going to ask you, I guess, especially with the Glenn Greenwald revelation, well, I shouldn't say revelation, it's more as lefties ourselves, how can we, because I understand how this critique originally started, right? Some on the left are a little bit too sensitive, and sometimes we get too, what's the term? The Vampire Castle novel thing, right? Where, we get a little bit to that. But I'm seeing, this reminds me of 2000s YouTube, or was it 2006? I can't remember. I'm getting old. But where the counterforce to the wokeness is becoming more of an issue than whatever the wokeness was originally. Like back when we had SJWs, and then the anti-SJWs became more of an issue than the SJWs ever were, right?
Yeah.
So Mike, since history is kind of repeating itself, because I'm seeing the people who are going down this track, right? How do we kind of avoid this whole mess where we can kind of prevent this type of weird grifting? Because I think it's safe to say Glenn is a grifter now. I'm glad of his work in Brazil, but even now he's burning that bridge.
Right. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, definitely check out. I don't want to redo it because I think Matt Leck, doing it with Matt Leck and Emma was perfect.
Sufficient.
Yeah, so I can't even. So definitely go, if you haven't checked it out, check out the Majority Report from earlier today. I'm assuming they're going to clip the segment, and I'm sure Glenn will see it, and I'm sure he'll have something to say about it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just not possible because I would say I have a pretty good track record at seeing through people. I think Glenn's change from his early Bush blogger days to being a better advocate for actual issues that we all agreed on with him. I think that was...
He was useful at the time. Yeah.
I think he was legitimate. I really do. I don't think he was grifting then. So I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that. But I've been pretty good at catching the out and out grifters. Is his new turn in grifting? I don't know. I think it is this new turn. I think he legitimately did change for the better, and now he's legitimately changing for the worse. But also because he saw that there's a grift, there's a money making avenue there. I mean, contrarianism sells. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I guess for me, I won't say I saw it all the time or anything, but I guess this is something you'll find out new about me, Matt. I am eternally, if you want to piss me off, be a contrarian. Because I think that's the ultimate bad faith, because it's kind of, for me, it is the I want to win the argument type guy.
Oh, people were calling me a contrarian this past weekend when I said that the Kinks were the better British invasion band than the Beatles.
Well, that's media. That's media. Nobody's going to get upset about that.
Oh, you should have people get really upset. Beatles fans are weird, man. Beatles fans are weird. Listen, I don't get really weird. They're obsessed with these guys. I mean, come on. Unbelievable. They weren't even that good. Come on. But anyway.
Yeah, so so the thing is, the thing that type of bothers me is when people, if you object to something in principle, I can see the logic of it. But what annoys me is when I know somebody's objecting just to be contrary. And that's kind of where Glenn's attitude has always been. I didn't complain about it much because, like, when he was doing the Brazil stuff back in the day with Lula, that was good. But now, like, he will go out of his, as the previous caller brought up, the white supremacists go out the way for them several times. That raises some red flags there. the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. That was a big ass red flag there, right? The going on Tucker only to bitch about people he has grievances with. That's another one that his politics for me, which is what ticked me off. His politics is motivated by who pissed him off, and that's why I always kind of with Glenn. But that's my piece. Oh, I'm going to jump off before this becomes a half-hour call.
No, thank you for the call. Always great when you call in, Dave from Jamaica. We got people in the chat asking when you're going to start your own channel. What's going on there?
No, here's the thing. I'm I wouldn't call it reactionary, but the thing is, I'm good at conversation. I'm not good at creating content, and I think I have a lot more. I need a lot more to learn if I'm going to be something that people can use.
Have you seen some of the people who have channels out there? Have you seen Jackson Hinkle, Dave from Jamaica? Are you serious? No. You can provide plenty of value. Trust me, my friend. Do not just go for it. Trust me. And you know what? If there's something for you to learn, you could learn it together on your channel with your viewers. I mean, nothing wrong with that. You think I know everything? Please. I know nothing. I know nothing.
I guess I don't. I think I should take your advice, but I'm a little bit. I guess I want to at least up my knowledge level just a little bit.
All right.
But I think I'll take it in consideration.
All right. Whatever you want to do, it's your decision. I respect that. But I'm just saying that if you think that you don't have the knowledge to be a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer.
No, I shouldn't say that. The knowledge to be useful to my audience. I don't want to.
I guarantee you do. A Dave from Jamaica out there creating media would be one more voice to combat the Jimmy Dores, the Jackson Hinkles, the whatever, I don't even, the Rumble crew, the Matt Orfs, the Glenn Greenwalds, the Michael Tracy's. Come on. Trust me. Don't think about it that way. If you don't want to do it for other reasons, that's up to you. But don't let that be the reason. Take care, Dave from Jamaica.
Take care, my friend.
Peace. All right. I gotta do these stories. So someone's calling in about an old Canadian crypto scam, they said. The guy who didn't have his audio working. Can you save it for next time? I think I do have to hang up the calls now. I don't think we're gonna have enough time for anything else. I want to hear this very much, but can you save it for next time? I appreciate it. I'm hanging up the calls now. All right. Let's do some stories here. Which one should I do first? Oh, this is a good one. It's a short one. Oh, they're all really good, actually. Give me a second to just pull them up so I can figure out what to do first. Oh man, these are all good. These are all great. All right, let's do this. Give me 1 second to pull up the right video here. That's not what I want to pull up. Should we do this right now? This is a good one, I'll tell you. Let's do this. This is good. Just give me a second to set this up. All right. So let's talk about this story. All right. So, you hear a lot from, like the pseudo leftist no, I shouldn't even say that, because I think that's a bad way to even categorize them. So those pseudo-leftists online who are always declaring that their most important issue is war and anti-imperialism and how United States foreign policy affects the world. And I think those are very important issues. But the type I'm talking about. The pseudo-leftists, the contrarians, the ones who will always call anyone who isn't 100% on board with like the Jimmy Dores of the world. They'll call them shit libs, and they'll bring up how that they're the real anti-imperialists, and any sort of discussion of the good of the current administration in terms of like why you should vote for a Democratic administration over a Republican administration, why vote for a Obama over a Romney, or why vote for a Hillary over a Trump, or in this very, very important example, which you'll see why in a second, why vote for a Biden over a Trump? Those anti-imperialists I'm talking about. Well, for these folks who care so much about these issues, again, I agree, very important issues, but for folks who make this their number one thing that they use as a cudgel whenever anyone tries to bring up literally anything else, they've oddly enough completely missed this very huge news. And I want to give major props to Ryan Cooper of The Week for bringing this to my attention and pulling this up for I do think it's been ignored, but again, I don't declare this to be my pet issue like these guys do. And I haven't seen them say anything about this, and I'd be really interested to see what they say about this now. Joe Biden has drastically reduced the number of drone strikes the United States of America carries out. And when I mean drastically, I mean almost completely ended the use of drone strikes. You're probably saying, what? How have I not heard that? You're right. As Ryan Cooper even pointed out in his article for The Week when he pointed this out, that the Biden administration has done literally nothing to talk about this. This is a remarkable achievement, and they've done nothing to promote this. But again, if you are someone who cares about this issue, how U.S. foreign policy affects the globe, especially countries in the Middle East that really hurt the most from U.S. foreign policy, in terms of our wars overseas and our drone strikes, you should be on top of this, in my opinion, or at least be talking about it once you find out about it, and heralding the Biden administration for this. Let me show you the deets from airwars.org, which compiles conflict data. Let me pull this video, this up. So, in Iraq and Syria, the Obama administration carried out 17,841 total drone strikes in his second term. The Trump administration, 16,058 total drone strikes in Iraq and Syria in his one term. The Biden administration, 39 total drone strikes in Iraq and Syria. As for civilian deaths in Iraq and Syria, Obama in his second term, 5,655. Now, if you noticed in the previous graph, Obama did carry out more drone strikes than Donald Trump, but Donald Trump in his term in office, he got rid of any sort of protections that the Obama administration had installed, where certain precautions had to be carried out when actually performing a drone strike to make sure that there weren't limited the number of civilian casualties. So look, more drone strikes by the Obama administration, but 5,655 civilian deaths. The Trump administration, 13,381 deaths by drone in Iraq and Syria. The Obama administration, the Biden administration, 10. 10 more than there should be, but 10 nonetheless. A lot less than 13,381. In Somalia, they even have more data here. The Bush administration, 17 deaths in Somalia. Obama first term, 25. Second term Obama, 17. Trump, 134. Biden in Somalia, 0. 0. 0. Let's go to Somalia. The number of strikes. Bush, 7. Obama first term, 16. Obama second term, 44. Trump, his one term, 276. Biden, 9. I mean, that's the main data I want to point out here. But this one is so... The number of civilian deaths in Iraq and Syria by drone. The anti-imperialists who tell you they're all the same, who care about these issues, supposedly, could not be more wrong, specifically on them being all the same on their pet issues. Stunning to say that Biden and Trump are exactly the same. Tell that to the families. Tell that to the men, women, and children who have not been killed by a drone strike due to these changes in the Biden administration. 13,381 deaths by drone in just Iraq and Syria during the Trump administration. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. You won't hear these guys talking about this. It's all about just owning the shit libs, right? Now, am I saying you give Biden administration a pass? No. Continue to. There shouldn't be any deaths. There shouldn't be any of these strikes. But to act like there was no difference in voting for one or the over the other, no. Brian Lay says, they were the greatest drone strikes in history. Many people are saying it, right? Ooh, we got someone who's angry about this. Crad Babes in the Twitch stream chat. So we're fake anti-imperialists for not cheering on Biden for not doing as many drone strikes? No, you're fake anti-imperialists for telling your audience, if you have one, that anyone who points out that Biden and Trump are not the same and a vote for Biden was much different, voting for Biden was better than voting for Trump because there's a clear difference in policy that leads to an enormous amount of less deaths. I think that makes you a fake anti-imperialist. I'm not telling you to cheer on for Biden. I'm telling you to acknowledge that there's a huge difference here. For fuck's sake, says Crad Babes, that's a bad take. Like they are the same. How is 15,000 deaths are the same as 10 to you? Those are the same? Those are the same. 50. Okay, let's do the math. 15,000. I'm rounding out. Let me. This is just Iraq and Syria. Remember. Let me be accurate. 13,381 minus 10 means a difference of 13,371 people who died in Iraq and Syria, more under the Trump administration than Biden thus far. We're now in year 1 of Biden. If Biden does kills 10 people by drone strike a year, that'll be a total of 40 in his administration. 40 more than there should be. Continue to criticize the Biden administration on this. I'm not saying you throw them a parade, but it's a lot less, which means that they are different. Crad Babe says Obama's drone campaign was not better because of some definitional smudging. It was better than Trump's, still not good. Do you understand how these things work? How words work? I'm not saying Obama had a better drone campaign, like it was a good one. I'm saying, again, by the number of deaths, clearly the Obama administration took some precautions to make sure, again, 5,655 deaths compared to 13,381. Still, way more should be zero. We shouldn't be drone striking these countries. We are not at war with them. There should not be any drone strikes. But definitionally, if you think that people shouldn't be dying and one administration's policies has more deaths than the others due to a policy that took more precautions, then by definition, that policy is better than the other one. Not good, better than the other one. Jeez. This is what having a completely vapid understanding of anti-imperialism does to a motherfucker. No? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Where are you getting this, crad babes? Forgive me for not saying, oh, Biden isn't an imperialist because he passed a low bar of not droning thousands of civilians. Where did I say that? No, that's the problem with you anti-imperialists, fake anti-imperialists. Where are you making this stuff up? Where did I say Biden isn't an imperialist? Where did I say that? I said it is bullshit that these anti-imperialist bullshitters like the Jimmy Dores and Jackson Hinkles and the Convo Couch people, they go out there saying Trump and Biden are the same, don't vote for Biden. And their listeners do what they say. And here we have proof that no, if you actually voted for Biden, you got a step in your direction where less people in Iraq and Syria died, a lot less. How is that saying Biden is not isn't an imperialist? Jesus Christ. Crad Babe said, I'm interacting here. Obviously, that's what I do on this show. Matt, we agree on the drone strikes being bad. What I have a problem with is suggesting that anti-imperialists are fake because they aren't saying, oh, okay, Obama and Biden's campaign aren't as bad as Trump. So why are you making this big attack on anti-imperialists using this? The fact they did less drone strikes is the evidence. It's a weak argument. I'm not talking... Every leftist is an anti-imperialist. I'm talking about a specific type. The ones who, anytime you bring up any domestic issue, goes, oh, but what about this? What about that? Only talking about anti-imperialism. You know the type I'm talking about. They use it as a cudgel. They use it to basically always move the conversation into critiquing anyone they declare to be a shit lib. All right, I'm moving on. But this is a very bad faith discussion for someone who claims that they're not one of those Jimmy Dore-ite types who, want to unite with the right wing, but in their bio say they're an anti-imperialist, which is the type I'm talking about. I mean, this is the same bad faith conversation they have. Nowhere did I say you need to celebrate and throw a ticker tape parade for the Biden administration. But it's very disingenuous to not point out that the Biden administration is better than the Trump administration on the issue of this, if this is something you care about. And if your argument is on everything else they are the same, well, guess what? On this they weren't, thus making the Biden administration better. Like, it's not hard. It's not hard. But I appreciate the conversation, Crab Dabes, or if that's whatever. I can't. I lost your. Subversal says better. I'd frame it as not as bad. Fine, not as bad. Not as bad. But as Ryan Cooper of The Week points out, Biden nearly ended the drone war. Nobody noticed. It's a significant achievement, as he points out. It's a remarkable foreign policy reform. I agree wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. I mean, Biden took us out of Afghanistan? You think Trump would have done that? You think Trump, all those people who went after Biden for what happened when he started to roll out leaving Afghanistan, all those military leaders, the press, the mainstream media that attacked him for how it was rolling out, Trump would have folded so fast. We would still be in Afghanistan. I guarantee it. Biden stuck with it, to his credit. Biden stuck with it, to his credit. The idea that Joe Biden hasn't been a vast improvement from the Trump administration, and honestly, from the Obama administration. And you could look at my feelings on Biden from I am surprised that he has been, as one person pointed out, I should say, not as bad. And you know what? I'm going to say it because I think he's been better. Does that mean you wipe the dirt off your hands and say, job's done here? No. Does that mean in 2024, though, you continue to pretend when Trump says he's going to run again that there's no difference between Biden and Trump? No. You continue to push the Biden administration. You continue to criticize them. You acknowledge is not the same as celebrate. I want to make this very clear. You acknowledge where there's been improvement. Because if you don't, you're just dealing in bed, not going to be able to deal with the realities of the situation. I mean, again, not as bad means 10 deaths in Iraq and Syria via drone strike versus 13,000 plus. I mean, that's a big difference to me to just say not as bad. I mean, I don't. That's the thing. Maybe this is what I mean with like some of these types. You guys are like so obsessed with just being contrarians. You're arguing with me over words I didn't even say. Just so you could like shit on the Biden administration for something you don't even need to shit on them about anymore. You think they're just as bad on other things, but they've been an improvement on drone strikes in Iraq and Syria? Well, guess what? You could spend more time on the other things that you think they're still just as bad on. I mean, it seems pretty commonsensical to me. But I appreciate the discussion. I think, I appreciate the discussion. Let's move on. Let's move on. I always appreciate a good debate. Honestly, if we had more time, I would have encouraged you to call in. Let's do this one next. This is a fun one. I think we need a fun one after this. This is a great one. This is a really good one. Give me a second to cue up the video here. All right. So this is hilarious. So the pro-Trump lawyer Linwood, the guy who was really big along with Sidney Powell with pushing the big lie and representing Trump, claiming there was election fraud during the 2020 presidential election. All bullshit, all untrue, by the way. No election fraud that changed any results of the 2020 presidential election. But Linwood is going to war with a number of people in the Republican Party, in conservative media, right-wing personalities. And one of those people he's going to war with right now is Tucker Carlson. And he just released a hilarious Tucker Carlson, a private Tucker Carlson email that he got his hands on. And I will get to that in a moment. But first, let me tell you why Tucker Carlson is in Linwood's sights, why Linwood is going after Tucker. And that's because Tucker Carlson had on Kyle Rittenhouse. And Linwood was Rittenhouse's original lawyer, the one who basically took on the case right off the bat, got it out in the press, helped to turn it into this like right-wing rallying cry. And Kyle Rittenhouse, though, you might have noticed if you watched his trial, Linwood wasn't there. That's because Kyle Rittenhouse ended up getting rid of Linwood as his lawyer. Because let's listen actually to what Kyle Rittenhouse had to say about Linwood during his interview on Tucker Carlson.
How long were you there?
I was in jail for 87 days, and this follows in with Linwood, who Linwood was raising money on my behalf, and he held me in jail for 87 days, disrespected my wishes.
To that I say, good job, Linwood. That I appreciate. But let's continue.
Put me on media interviews, which I should never have done, which he said, oh, you're going to go talk to the Washington Post, which was not a good idea. Along with John Pierce, they said I was safer in jail instead of at home with my family. And then after I'm bailed
Your lawyer said that?
My lawyer said that, John Pierce and Linwood.
87 days is a long time to be in jail.
It was very long. I lost a lot of weight in there. I since then gained it back.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. But 87 days of not being with my family, for defending myself and being taken advantage to, being used for a cause by John Pierce and Lynn Wood, trying to trying to raise money so they can take it for their own benefit, not trying to set me free.
So you think they could have raised the money for bail faster, but they didn't?
I believe sometime in September 5th, I want to say, they had over $1 million. And
all right, so Rittenhouse's whole thing is basically that Lynn Wood used him to basically fundraise in Rittenhouse's name, but really just pocket the money for himself. And he used Tucker Carlson as an avenue to say this. And obviously, Lynn Wood is very angry at Tucker. Let me get that fake Tucker laugh up on. So Lynn Wood is very angry at Tucker for this reason. And so over on his Telegram channel, Lynn Wood decided to release a private email that he received. There's the chain here I have where apparently, so the email that Lynn Wood put on his channel apparently was first posted, Lynn Wood saw it from a Telegram channel known as The Professor's Record, which is a friend of Lynn Wood named David Clements, Mike Rothschild points out. And he got it from, Clements got it from, I should say, Garrett Ziegler, who posted the metadata, the .eml file, with all the source information, the metadata of the email intact, to prove its legitimacy. And here is what that email that Lynn Wood shared from Tucker shows. Now, to make sure that this information, the private information, Lynn Wood didn't edit this to hide the email addresses and the phone numbers. I did that because I don't want to get banned from sharing private information. I want people to be able to see this YouTube video. So in 2014, Tucker Carlson emailed Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, to thank him for writing a letter of recommendation for Tucker's son, Buckley, for Georgetown, because he was trying to get into Georgetown. Tucker writes to Hunter Biden, I want to say this again, Tucker Carlson to Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Hunter, I can't thank you enough for writing that letter to Georgetown on Buckley's behalf. So nice of you. I know it'll help. Hope you are great, and we can all get dinner soon. Tucker. To which Hunter Biden replies, hey, buddy, I need Buckley's CV. If you have one handy, thanks. Tucker replies to Biden, of course. Getting on a plane now, but I'll ask Susie to send it right away. Thanks again. It's really nice of you to do this. Incredible. 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 And, it seems likely, and this is speculation, that this email possibly came from Hunter Biden's laptop. That's why these folks would have their hands on this. And it's very funny that Lynn Wood would use this to go after Tucker Carlson. I mean, it's hilarious. These guys are such bullshit artists. These guys are such bullshit artists. Thank you, Hunter, for writing. And by the way, Buckley didn't get into Georgetown. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Tucker started to sour on Hunter. I say, let them fight. Let them tear at each other. Let these guys let them take each other out. Incredible. I love this email. Hunter! I can't thank you enough for writing that letter to Georgetown on Buckley's behalf.
Yeah.
Incredible. All right. Let's get to this final segment of the show. Miss Heathen says the Bidens have issues. Yeah, I don't really care about Hunter Biden though in this exchange. Is he an idiot for helping out Tucker Carlson? Of course he is. Of course he is. But I don't give a shit about Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has no power, means nothing to me. Buckley. Let's get to this. Let's get to this final segment. Oh, where'd this go? All right, here we go. Give me a second. I gotta pull up this this video so I could properly have everything ready to go.
How long were you?
No, not that. Nope, not that anymore. Yeah, this is the one I want. This is the one I want. All right, cool. Let's do this. Oh, Rick Copeland says, doesn't Carlson have a brother named Buckley, as in Buckley of Labia Face fame? Oh, yes. I forgot about that. The leaked emails between Tucker and his brother. I don't remember. Is his name Buckley? Maybe. Yeah. Oh, those emails were gross. All right, but anyway, let's talk about this. So, earlier this week, Twitter CEO, earlier this week, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey announced that he was stepping down as CEO of Twitter to basically, he said his reason for stepping down was Twitter was best served as no longer being a founder-led company. He's going to dedicate his time to being CEO over at Square, which then immediately after changed its name to Block because the payment processor company is now going to focus more on the blockchain. Whoop-de-doo. That's a conversation for another day. But anyway, Twitter announced their new CEO, who was already a Twitter executive, got promoted to CEO. Parag Agrawal. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but Parag Agrawal. So the new Twitter CEO, Parag Agrawal. And right away, by the way, right-wingers acted like they were responsible for the removal of Jack Dorsey. They looked at it as some big win. And by the way, again, Jack Dorsey resigned, wasn't removed, even though there was an effort from activist shareholders, specifically right-wing activist shareholders, to remove Jack Dorsey. But Dorsey claims he resigned on his own. But right-wing personalities who were not activist shareholders, billionaire activist shareholders, who definitely had nothing to do with Jack Dorsey leaving Twitter, acted like they had something to do with it. For example, Laura Loomer, looks like over on Gab maybe, posted, 3 years ago today, I handcuffed myself to Twitter headquarters, where I called on Jack Dorsey to be removed from Twitter for his censorship of conservatives, and I trended #1 on Twitter in the world. 3 years later exactly, Jack Dorsey announced he's stepping down from his role as CEO of Twitter. Yes, Laura Loomer, you handcuffing yourself to the Twitter headquarters 3 years ago and not getting what you wanted then, which was being brought back to the Twitter platform, still banned from Twitter. That action somehow led to Jack Dorsey stepping down 3 years later. Your brain power still astounds me, Loomer. We've all been loomered. And then, of course, we got Jason Miller, former Trump aide, who launched a conservative social network called Getter, tried to get Trump to join it. Trump wouldn't, and announced plans for his own. And in the promotional white papers for his own social network, basically shit all over Jason Miller's social network, Getter. Jason Miller learns of the news of Jack Dorsey leaving Twitter, and he says, another scalp. Incredibly dumb, as if he had anything to do. Another scalp. First of all, scalps are very, like, saying that even is very gross in terms of like what it means and the racism towards like Native Americans and you saying that, but whatever. Let's put that aside. What other scalps have you gotten? And B, this one isn't even yours. Ridiculous. But anyway, so once they got done pretending they had something to do with Jack Dorsey's removal, as if like was something to celebrate for them there, they quickly realized that, oh no, maybe we want Jack Dorsey back, because they found an old tweet from the new CEO, Agrawal. Let me pull that up on the screen here, that they were very concerned about. And this tweet said, if they are not going to make this was in quotes, by the way, it's on the screen now. If they're not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists? And let me tell you, right-wingers were not happy with this one. We got right-wingers saying that this was, that Agrawal is racist, that things are going to get worse. Breitbart, by the way, declared this to be anti-white racism, even though they admitted that they had no idea what the context was and where the hell this was coming from, because it was in quotes, of course. Now, I want to point out, look at the date of this tweet. 2010, October 26, 2010. So they went back over a decade to find this tweet. And they had no idea where this came from. Again, it's in quotes, so this is ostensibly him quoting someone else. Now, for people who did look into this, they quickly found out that he was, in fact, quoting an episode of The Daily Show that aired that night. It was a segment called, where is it? It was a segment called NPR Staffing Decision 2010. Jon Stewart was still the host of Daily Show then. And it was a segment on the NPR's firing of Juan Williams that week. And I pulled the segment so you can see the context here. Basically, it's a quote from comedian Asif Manvi, excuse me, and this is the context here. Let me get right to where he says it. Look, Larry Wilmore, formerly of The Nightly Show, is there. Let's play it from
he
here.
is so lucky.
But guys, you're just feeding into this. Why don't you try and change people's minds instead?
Well, John, if they're not going to make a distinction between Muslims and violent extremists, then why should I take the time to distinguish between decent, fearful white people and racists?
Okay. Amen, brother.
What? Is that?
Now, it elicited laughter because it's a joke, but it's also very accurate, which, again, went over a lot of people's heads. And when I say a lot of people's, I mean a lot of right-wingers looking for something to be outraged over. And even without that context, which I do think it's important to know what he was quoting, and I should note that he said even in 2010 what he was quoting. Someone had asked him back in 2010, and he said, I was quoting Asif Manvi from The Daily Show. But anyway, this tweet taken on its own is also extremely accurate and not at all even racist if you even subscribe to something that doesn't exist, which is anti-white racism, complete bullshit white supremacist framing. There's no such thing as anti-white racism. People could be prejudiced towards white people. Sure, that happens, but there's no anti-white racism. And let me tell you, it's a lot easier being white. But anyway, let's focus on this. The quote is, and Parag Agrawal didn't tweet it out verbatim, because at the time, remember, Twitter's character limit was 140 characters. This is, I believe, I checked, I believe if I remembered, it was 138. So all the specific adjectives that Asif Manvi used wouldn't have fit here. So he shortened it so it still made sense. Let's read this again. If they are not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists? It's a if-then comment. To believe that he's calling white people racists, you must also agree with the fact that you, the person getting mad about it, see no distinction between Muslims and extremists. And yeah, if you agree with that, and you are a xenophobe and an Islamophobic bigot, then yeah, I guess he is calling you a racist. Sure. But if you can make that distinction, if you can realize that out of the billions of Muslims in the world, they are not all Islamic fundamentalists, Islamist extremists, then you are not a racist. I mean, that's the if then. If you can make that distinction between Muslims and extremists, then he can make the distinction between white people and racists. This is not hard. This is not hard. But, you know, they tell them themselves all the time, don't they? This is the ultimate tell here, isn't it? Give me a lot of things to go after Twitter about, a lot of things to criticize new Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal about. His 2010 tweet quoting comedian Asif Manvi from a segment on Jon Stewart's The Daily Show about where the message is that it is racist to claim that all Islamic people are extremists, terrorists, radical fundamentalists. And if you can make that distinction between those, then yeah, of course, we can also make the distinction between white people and racists. Then, I mean, you know, if that's what you're going to waste your time on, then, I mean, have fun wasting your time on this bullshit, I guess. All right, folks. That is our show for today. Who gave us a who rated us before? Where's my Twitch? Oh, if you're new to the, we got a bunch. Let me actually thank some of the I got to. Why can't I? 1 second. Why can't I scroll in this? That's weird. I want to thank all the There's something going on with my Twitch dashboard here where I can't even scroll for some reason. That's weird. Let's see what's going on here. What's going on here? Well, I can't scroll the activity feed right now, and I don't know why. So let me pull it out. I'll zoom out so I can see as many of you as possible. What's going on? Why can't I? All right. Well, I'm sorry. Let me thank people I can see. I want to thank Willy Bonka, Zachamania, Jordan Reege, Tim Bob, for dropping some bits in the Twitch chat. And what else? We got some gift subs too. Thank you, Jordan and Tim Bob, for the gift subs. And we got TYT rated me again. Thank you, TYT. And for subs on their own, we got Abondagon, Pager 1101, Jordan, Rij, and Tiny Stallion. Thank you so much for the subs. I really, really, really appreciate the support. It really means a lot. And thank you all new followers on Twitch. Definitely subscribe to the Twitch channel if you are new to the Twitch stream. And let me ask you guys, who should I raid? Twitch folks, who should I raid? I like to spread the love. On my Twitch stream on Tuesday, the Twitch exclusive stream, everyone picked Will Neff because they thought I was going to get some something out of that. I got nothing out of that. He didn't mention it because he had almost 3,000 people watching it. So my pitiful 100 people I sent them meant nothing. So let me actually help some fellow leftist streamers. Who should I raid? We got Willow. Who's Willow? Let me see. Are they on the air right now? US A-hole is someone I rated previously, and they were so grateful for it because my number of subscribers, the amount of people who went to his channel via the raid was significant for him. So I want to help that there. Okay. We got Willow. A trans rights channel. I like this. Let's do this. Let's raid Willow. I like that. And Willow's got 121 people watching right now, so my current 100 viewers will mean something. Let's do it up. Setting up the raid now. Okay, everybody else, thank you so much for your support. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. If you can support the show via Patreon subscription, help me get back to that 300 goal. We're just a couple. I lost almost more than a dozen people. So if you could help get us back over 300 patrons, that'd be great. I was well over it. We lost a lot this month because of the holidays and declines. So patreon.com/MattBinder, youtube.com/MattBinder, twitch.tv/MattBinder. I really thank you all for the support. Again, I'll be follow me at Matt Binder on Twitter for any impromptu streams. I do that sometimes. Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I did an impromptu 3-hour debate on a Friday with Matt Orff. So that was fun. So follow me on Twitter for any impromptu stuff. But usually you can find me on Twitch on Tuesdays and everywhere, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, etc. on the long Thursday stream. Let me raid Willow. And then for everybody else, I will see you all next time. This is the raid, by the way, just for Twitch people. If you're watching on YouTube and looking for another show to watch, go to twitch.tv/Willow. Great username, by the way. Got in early and got that really short name there. Twitch.tv/Willow. Let's do this. Everybody else, I will see you all next time on Doomed.